Hi everybody, and welcome to AP Lazer Workshop this fine Friday. Hope everybody is doing well. I do apologize about the delay here. We had some technical issues with one of our cameras. Just wanted to make sure we had that all fixed for everybody. So what we're going to be doing today is we're actually going to be taking a photograph and we're going to be etching it onto a mirror. So we're going to walk through this process through photo paint and then photograve and then right over to our machine. I don't have the mirror right in front of me because I didn't think you guys would want to see the camera. So one of the questions that I've gotten over a lot of our other videos dealing with photographs is, about different types of photographs. And some of the ones we've used in the past have all been really high resolution photos. So I've actually picked out a personal photo that we're going to try to etch, and this one is actually of my grandparents, and this photo dates back all the way to 1942 from World War II. And if you want, we'll jump over to my screen. I'll show you the photo real quick and then we'll get going here. So this here is the photo we're going to be working with. This is kind of like a real life scenario because I know a lot of people dealing with photos, you're not always going to have that nice crisp high resolution photo. As you can see with this photo here, there's a lot of imperfections in here that we're going to work with and try to clean up to give us our best quality engraving. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into this. Minimize this and I'm going to open up my Corel photo paint. With all projects, when we first get going, we're always going to start with get started here. I'm going to do a new document here, and I'm going to go ahead and name this my mirror engraving. My background color, because we're going to be putting this on a mirror, I actually want a black background. So I'm going to switch my background color from white to black. And I'm going to come down and adjust my size here. The mirror that I currently am working with is something I picked up at Michael's, which is kind of like a hobby shop. You can get these kind of mirrors online. You can get them at any kind of craft store. And it's just a typical 12 by 12 mirror. Just with all my other photos, I'm going to run it as a resolution of 150 here. And I'm going to hit OK. So here we have our working area, the size of our mirror. So I'm going to go ahead and import in my photo. All right, I'm just going to drop it right inside here. And I'm just going to scale it up a little bit more. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and rename my background 2 layer, which is my actual photo. Double click here. And call this my original, or I just like to abbreviate, just say OG. I'm then going to go ahead and duplicate this layer here. Duplicate. And then turn off my original. Now, if you're new to watching these videos and watching this process here, the reason that I do this is typically if something happens and I don't like the way that I'm adjusting on this layer here, I can quickly just delete this layer and then make another copy of my original. So my original one is never actually being edited at all. So what I'm going to first try to do is I want to come through and I'm going to just isolate, just to separate my grandparents here from the actual background. Now, one reason that I want to do this with this particular photo is because if I leave this background in here, and even if I clean it up, on our final product, it's going to add in a lot of extra noise gain in the back here. So with my object 1 here selected, I'm going to go ahead and change this one to our cutout. And I'm going to come up to Image and Cutout Lab. So here's where I'm just going to kind of trace around the areas that I want to keep here and just get rid of everything else. So I'm just going to come over here on the left-hand side, and I'm not going to worry about getting too close to everything. I just want a basic cutout here. Now again, when you're working with a photo that's flat on the bottom here, you still need to make sure that you come across here. It's connected there. Just to make sure you have a complete cutout. I'm going to grab my fill tool right up here in the top right and just drop in there. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. So now I'm left with just my cutout here. I'm going to turn my object marquee on, which is up at the top here, this little button here. And what this does again is it just adds in this little blue line here showing me where the edge of the photo is. Now with this particular function here, it's always good to have this on because as we're erasing, if we leave small little fragments that we may not see, but this blue marquee is actually going to show us those. And even though we may not be able to see them, the machine definitely will. So I'm going to come over to my left-hand side toolbar and I'm going to grab my eraser tool here. And I'm going to come up and I'm going to change my nib size. Now I like to use one of these shadow tools or shadow nibs here. It allows me to get a little bit closer to the image without dipping in too far, and just kind of helps blend things in. So I'm going to grab that and I'm just going to come over and just start cleaning up. So as you can see, this little spot that I've got there, if I turn this marquee off, I don't really notice anything there. So again, this marquee is kind of showing me that there's something there that needs to be erased. Adjust my feather up on my nib a little bit here. There we go, get a little bit softer. Now, when I come into certain areas like this is actually a hat netting that's going around. Something like this is going to be really hard to kind of bring out because you can see it almost looks like smoke. It's so faint and so light. So for this purpose here, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that and just focus in on the actual hat here. Adjust my nub down a little bit here. Get inside these little crevices. Now, a lot of times my personal preference is I like to kind of come through here, clean this up for the most part, and then kind of backtrack a little bit and get a little bit closer. Again, just kind of my personal preference there. Now if you notice what I'm doing is I'm real quickly adjusting my nib as I go along, just to make that a little bit bigger and smaller. Real quick easy way to do that is hold the shift key along with your left mouse key and then just move your mouse forward or backwards, and that again will quickly adjust that nib size for you. Make sure I want to get in between here. Again, it just kind of helps them stand out a little bit more away from any kind of background. And in the little areas like this is really where adjusting that nib as you go along can help. Alright, I'm going to come back over to this other side here. Alright. Now that we've got that pretty well cleaned up around our edges, one thing that I want to fix in this photo is this small little tear here, which kind of makes it look like my grandfather's got a scar there, which he did not. So what I'm going to use is my cloning tool over on the left-hand side toolbar, which is right here. I'm going to select that, and then again I'm going to come up to the top and I'm going to adjust my nib style and size. When I'm doing cloning, I really like to use this really light, soft nib right here. What this does allows it just to blend in a little bit better. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. I'm going to shrink my nib down. I don't need something that large. And I'm just going to kind of get as close as I can to where I'm going to be copying over, just to drop my nib there. And then I can kind of move where I'm going to be copying from, which is right here, to where I'm copying to. I can almost kind of make a figure 8 here to get a real nice blended look. So I'm just going to kind of work back and forth there. Readjust a little bit. A little bit more of this shadow in here. There we go, just kind of blend it in a little bit here. Now this photo is old and it is a little bit dark too, so I'm going to go ahead and use my tone curve to kind of lighten up the photo as a whole. So I'm going to come up to adjust and down to my tone curve here. And we'll go ahead and reset this. And I'm just going to kind of come into the middle of my curve here and then just lighten it up just a little bit there. There we go. Go ahead and hit OK. Now again, because this is kind of a low resolution photo, it's pretty old, I'm going to use some of my effects tools to kind of sharpen up some areas, to kind of make them stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to go over to the left-hand side toolbar again, and this little icon here that kind of looks like a Q-tip is my effects tool. I'm going to click on there, and up in the top left I have a little drop-down menu right here where I can choose different effects. So I'm going to choose my sharpen here, and I'm going to do a medium soft sharpen. I'm going to kind of come in, and what I'm going to do is just kind of highlight a little bit in the eyes here. I really want them to stand out a little bit more. And you can kind of see them getting a little bit sharper there. I'm also going to kind of come down, I'm going to increase my nib a little bit and do a little bit in the clothing too. This will really help it stand out a little bit. Really want to focus on the patches and things. A little bit in the creases. And get these pearls here. All right. Now, because my photo is flat here on the bottom, I've really got two choices. I could either bring my photo down towards the bottom here and increase my size to try to fit them in a little bit bigger and better. Or what I can actually do is I can create a mask. Which we're going to go ahead and create a mask. So I'm going to grab my masking tool over here in the left-hand side toolbar. I'm going to hit my little drop arrow to bring up my sub menu and select my ellipse mask. Go ahead and draw my mask around. Kind of about in there. And I just want to make sure that I'm staying away from this bottom here. If we make our mask come down any farther, what's going to happen is it's going to give you kind of that flat tire kind of look. So the next thing I want to do is I want to feather my mask. This is going to make this bottom part down around here just kind of a soft blend in. So if I come up to mask and mask outline, I can choose my feather. So from here I can say what the direction is, which I want it to be on the outside. I want my edges to be curved. And then my width here I can adjust. Now you've got this little button down here which is kind of a preview. So if I click that, it kind of highlights red of what's all going to be removed. And if we look down here in the bottom, below our line, we can see how much farther out our mask is actually extending beyond the one that we've drawn. That looks pretty good to me. I'm not cutting down below or having any kind of sharp edges there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. I'm then going to come up to Object. I'm going to Clip Mask, Create From Mask. We can add in a little bit of a drop shadow here just to kind of give them a little bit of shine. Again, let them stand out against the background a little bit more. So I'm going to come over to my drop shadow tool, again on the left-hand side toolbar. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to come just kind of in the middle. I'm just going to draw a line up. Now you can see this box here is black, showing me that I've got a black drop shadow currently. So I can adjust that by coming up here to my top menu bar, and I've got my drop shadow color. I'm going to switch that to white. There we go. And then I'm going to come in and just kind of grab my square and bring it down just a little bit. Now we really can't see it, but you can start seeing it peeking out a little bit down here on the bottom. So up at the top menu bar again, we've got our adjustments for our drop shadow. So I want this to be a linear. I want it to be on the outside. And right here, the feather shows me, when I increase that, how far out it goes. I'm gonna bring that back a little bit. A little bit more. And then right next to our feather is our transparency. So I can just kind of soften that glow up even more. There we go, just kind of like that. Again, I just want a little bit of a kind of a haze around there to kind of make it stand out a little bit more. And so from here, I'm going to go ahead and save my file in case I want to come back and work with it more. So we're going to save it as a CPT file here. Save. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of want to make sure that this is aligned and kind of centered in on my page. So I can come over to the right-hand side with my Docker tabs, and I'm going to hit the plus sign here, and then I'm going to go to Align and Distribute. So from here I can kind of center up this way and this way, just to make sure that my image is coming out right in the center here. A little bit of a glow there. That should be all right. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and save this one more time. And then I'm going to go ahead and export this out as a BMP file. I'm going to save flattened here. And that's just basically condensing all of these down to one layer. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this for right now, and I'm going to open up my Photograve program. So again, with Photograve, it's a very intuitive program. It's very easy to use. We're just going to kind of walk left to right here across this menu bar. So I'm going to open up my image, find my BMP right here. I'm going to select my material, and I want this ornament glass standard, which is kind of a basic glass mirror setting here, and hit OK. In my interactive mode here, I'm going to go ahead and change my machine DPI from 200 to 150. All right, so over the right here, I can kind of see my simulate, how it should kind of look when we're done here. Again, Photograve is a very intuitive program. Not a lot that you really need to do in here. Now, I know when you're dealing with a mirror, you typically need to run a little bit higher power. Because the backings can change depending on the type of mirror that you buy. Some are a little bit thicker than others. Knowing this by running them in previously, I know that I need to add in just a little bit more extent. And what that extent does is just kind of highlights my edges a little bit. So I'm not going to go up very high. I'm just going to take it from a 4 to an 8. And we can see that it's just kind of, again, highlighted some of our edges around here. Made them look a little bit more prominent. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and click on my final process just to stamp all these settings in. And go ahead and save my image. We want it to be an engraved image. We're going to go ahead and OK. And I'm going to put it right on my desktop here. All right. So what we can do now is we're going to go ahead and open up RDWorks here. And we're going to import in our image. So we have our engraved image here. And as you can see, because when we're etching on a mirror, we actually want to etch on the back half of the mirror. So we actually want the image itself to be mirrored. So you can see that because we selected that glass setting, PhotoGrave has already mirrored this image for me. If you notice, my grandfather used to be on the right-hand side here, and he now is on the opposite. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to adjust my speed and my power and my interval. And I've got some settings pre-saved here, so I'm going to come up to my parameter library here. I'm going to select mirror and then load. So we're going to be running with a 25 speed, 75 power with an interval of a 0.006 or a DPI of 150. So I'm going to hit OK here. Because the item that I'm going to be etching on is actually square, I'm going to leave my origin here to the bottom left. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and jump over to our machine real quick, get that powered on, and we'll download our file and set up our material here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and power on real quick. I'm going to jump over to my computer and download my image. Okay, now that that is downloaded, what I'm actually going to be using today as far as the lens goes is I'm going to be using my 2-inch lens. Now, what I did switch out is we do carry kind of a short nub cone. When you're etching mirrors and you've got this typical cone on here, it's very close to the surface of that mirror. So what can happen is it can actually start congesting here on the end because this end is so small. And what will happen is as you're etching, that will block off the beam. And so you'll get an empty line there. I do believe we are out of stock currently on our 1812 cones. But we do have those coming into stock shortly and will be available to purchase on our AP Lazer store. So I've set this up a little bit different too. With mirrors, it's really tricky to knowing if you actually went through the material or not. So what I've actually done is I've grabbed some wood to elevate my mirror. And I picked this kind of retractable mirror up here at the hardware store. What this will allow me to do is after I'm done etching it, I can actually use this mirror to look underneath there to make sure that I came through my backing all the way. Like I said earlier, a lot of these backings on these mirrors you're going to find are going to vary, and sometimes you need a little bit more higher power. I always suggest always having a piece able to be sampled out to kind of test to make sure that you're getting your speed and power settings correctly. So we're going to go ahead and change our view to the inside here. And so you can see that I've got my mirror already flipped around backwards here and my pieces of wood to kind of elevate that. I'm going to go ahead and move my laser head kind of into the center of my material and take my original or my first reading here. And again, one thing that I like to do is I like to take my focus stick, put flat on the material, and slide right up to the laser head. Make sure I'm not catching here or I'm too far away. So from there, I'm going to go check out my other 4 corners here. And we're a little low there. So we're going to adjust our leveling leg here. Nice focus. A little high here. Look good there. We're just going to check our other corners here. Still off a smidge there. Right down, and we look good. I'm then going to bring my laser head towards the edge here. And I'm just going to run it left and right, just using my red dot to visually see if my material is on straight. Off just a little bit there. All right, looks good. When you come to the edge here, bring it over just a smidge. Now, if you're having a little bit of difficulty like I'm currently having with trying to get that where you need it to, what you can actually do is slow your keying speed down on your machine. You can do that by pressing the speed button on your control panel and lowering that down just a little bit. And there we go there. I'm going to go ahead and hit origin and then frame. All right, we're looking good there. We're going to go ahead and close our lid now. And go ahead and hit start. All right, so that's going to take a few minutes to run. While that's running, I'll go ahead and jump back over to my computer here and answer any questions you guys may have. Having somebody ask about light burn. We do have some tutorial videos we're going to be doing with light burn. Light burn is not the easiest to process a photo with. It's not very intuitive like it is with PhotoGrave. It's still an excellent program. I highly enjoy the trace function between it. But again, when you're doing photos in there, you kind of start off from ground zero. So every photo you're dealing with, you have to self-adjust. And it's not like PhotoGrave when you can actually pick a material and it's going to come up with a lot of those baseline settings for you. I do have plans in the future to possibly do a comparison of PhotoGrave with Lightburn as far as processing a photo. There's also no editing functions within Lightburn to actually fix a photo such as this one here that may have a scar or something like that on there. Again, we are going to be having a class on processing and doing a comparison for that. Having somebody ask me why I did the origin in the bottom left corner. How did I actually know what the center was? So basically I started it just because it was, I could measure out and find the absolute center of that. Me doing the aligning in Photo Paint made sure that I was dead center inside there. I had all my sizes correct. So again, it was just a preference that I had. By no means necessarily is that the only way that you have to do it or the only way to do it. You can always set it for center, measure out. A lot of people have different preferences on their origin points. Now I would like to say too that when you are working with the 1812 cone on the larger machines, that does expose your lens quite a bit. Even though we have the air assist pumping through there, that when you get done running your project, just to make sure that you do clean your lens. Again, it's a little bit more exposed, so a little bit more smoke and dust can get built up on that. Yep, someone else is asking, do I pause the laser to clean it off on all the buildup? so we don't get a miscut. Absolutely. What you'll want to do is just pause the machine, very carefully open up the lid, take a Q-tip or something like that that you could put in there and just knock off any kind of buildup that you see happening there. There's somebody asking, would these settings be similar to settings needed for granite? No, they would not. Granite is a little bit different of a material. It's a lot harder. You can typically get through, you're not trying to get through paint like you are here. My personal preferences on running granite is about a 28 speed and right around a 21 to 23 power. I'm having someone else ask if this is going to be recorded and sent over. We are not going to be sending the videos over, but we will be posting this probably next Tuesday on our YouTube channel. So make sure to go to our YouTube channel, subscribe, and that's where all of our videos will go after we're done recording the live sessions. Also, if you have any questions about any of the processes or steps we've taken through today, by all means, please give our excellent tech support line a call, speak to any one of our technicians, and they're going to be more than happy to point you in the right direction as well. Someone else is asking, the settings I'm using are for 100 watt. Do the settings matter by using a 60 watt? Yes, your settings are going to vary a little bit, especially with the lower wattage machines like the 1812 and 2616. You will typically need to run up your power a little bit more. We do always have our suggested speed and power settings that should be located in your manual or available on our AP Lazer University site. All right, we're getting close to our photo being done here. So far, looking pretty good. Yeah, I have Frank asking, saying that he's really impressed with the process and looking forward to his 1812. Frank, I will tell you one thing. The 1812 does an amazing job of doing portraits. And one of the main reasons that is that tube is a lot lower wattage, so the beam size is a lot finer than it is in my larger machines. Again, beautiful job with portraits. It just makes those dot sizes very fine, very detailed, works excellent with a variety of material. And someone else asking, so if we set the page size and paint to the actual size of the object, it will be centered in on the laser machine. Yes, essentially that is correct. When we're working with Corel Photo Paint, when we export out of there, we actually take our entire working area out. So as long as that's sized up correctly to what you're engraving on or the area that you're engraving on, and you have everything centered in correctly, it should come out just fine. Now, one thing we're going to have a video on, I'm going to try maybe next month or the month after, we're going to actually be doing an entire headstone. Now, headstones are a little bit different. You know, if you were doing a portrait on a headstone, for example, and say your headstone is 36 inches by 24 inches, but you're only doing a 6 by 6 image, you wouldn't necessarily set up your entire working area for that entire monument. You would just set it up for the area that you're going to be engraving and kind of measure out and find out where that's going to be at. If someone else asking, was the picture taken with your phone or a regular camera? Digital picture of a picture. Actually, this picture was sent to me in Facebook by my aunt. I do believe she did scan it in around 300 dpi, maybe a little bit less. And then again, that was the original photo, and she sent it to me in a Facebook Messenger, basically. And so that's how I pulled the photo off. I pulled it off right from my phone. Actually, I just emailed it to myself off my phone and was able to bring it in here. All right, and all right, looks like we're finished up here, so let's go over and let's take a look to see what we have here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and open up my lid here, and I'm going to find my nice little mirror, and I'm just going to kind of peek underneath here to see if I got through everything. And everything looks good. So I can go ahead and move my laser head now. All right. So hopefully you guys can kind of see that with the glare. Try to find a good angle here. But there we go there. that is our photo. We got some really great detail in here. Another thing that you can do to kind of heighten this and make it stand out a little bit more is you can actually use a little bit of acrylic paint on the back end of this. I find white works pretty much the best, but if you wanted to get really detailed, you're pretty crafty, you could actually go through and fully recolor this photo on this mirror. So we'll go ahead and leave this open. See if anybody else has any questions here. Thank you, Frank. I'll be sending that to my aunt here soon. Again, and one reason I wanted to use this photo is because it's something that as normal operators, normal users, these are the kind of photos you are typically going to come across. They're going to be kind of low resolution, not in the best of shape, and so they can be a little bit tricky, but like I said, hopefully I simplify this process a little bit for you. You notice I didn't do a whole lot of editing, just some minute changes here and there. And again, if anyone has any questions over this process, feel free to call our tech line. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions for you. Someone asking if I cleaned off the back of it off. Nope, I haven't actually wiped it off yet. I misplaced my paper towels here, but that is something, it is a little bit dusty there, so I would just wipe it off. And again, remember please that testing out, if you're able to buy a little sample mirror of the same type that you're buying, those coatings on the back can vary. So you just want to make sure that you're comparing things and finding a correct speed. And then once you have those speeds down pat, you can always save them into your parameter library in RDWorks. If nobody has any questions or anything like that, again, I hope you guys all enjoy these little workshops that we're doing. I hope you find them informative. I know I've been having a lot of fun making them myself. And again, if you have any questions over any kind of design things, please give our tech support line a call. That number is 844-364-8211. And I hope you guys have a great Friday and you have a wonderful weekend. Bye, everybody.